Hi everyone, and welcome back to another tutorial. Today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to configure site-to-site VPN using the Firewall Device Manager, FDM, to configure a pair of FTDv version 7.3.0, as usual running on KVM in Ubuntu 22.04. Okay, let's take a look at how the setup will look like. For those of you who have been following my video, you will remember that I have set up a second tier firewall with HA, right, over what I call Site 2, right, for this tutorial. And then what I have set up is additional FTDv on a separate cloud network in Site 2, right? So take note of the IP address. The client that will be testing is 172.16.2.111, accessing 10.16.2.111, right? I'll configure bidirectional traffic, or allowing bidirectional traffic between these two clients itself. Okay. So first we will configure Site 1, right? We'll do the configuration for site-to-site VPN, and then configure the net exempt rule. Right? There's two ways to do it. I'll show you both the way in the tutorial. And then last but not least, we'll configure the access control policy so that we allow traffic to flow between the two sites. And then we'll configure Site 2, the same thing, site-to-site VPN policy, net exempt rule, and then access control policy. Okay, so now let's hop over to the FDM. Okay, I've already logged in, right, to both the Site 2, which is active, and then Site 1, which is site-to-site demo. Okay. So before we configure the site-to-site profile or policy, let's go to object. We just need to configure the two-site local IP address so that it's easier for us to do the configuration later. Site 1, which is 10.16.2.0/24, and then we will add the network object for Site 2, which is 172.16.2.0/24, right? Okay, let's deploy it. Right, it takes a while, so we can deploy as it goes along for some of the configuration. Next, we'll hop over to device and then go to site-to-site VPN and click on view configuration. We will create a site-to-site connection over here. Right, so let's give it a name, site-to-site to demo to active, right? That's a name. For the policy, or for the type of VPN, we'll be showing you the policy-based VPN for this tutorial. In the future tutorial, I will show you the route-based VPI, which can do a little bit more things, right? But the policy-based is good enough for a small setup to get you started to link two sites together. Okay, then we'll go to local VPN access interface. Right? Don't be confused by the local word. It's not your inside or local interface. It's actually your outside interface, which your VPN session will terminate on, right? So this is the public IP address of the Site 1 firewall, right, that will terminate the VPN session. Now the local network is the inside or the local network of your current site, which is in our case Site 1, right? So site-to-site demo is Site 1, right? So that is very much what you need to do for the local site. On the remote site, oops, sorry. Suddenly click back again. Outside, and then Site 1. Okay, and then for the remote site, we're going to show in this tutorial both sites are static IP address. So we're going to set up the static IP address of the remote IP. So this is the public IP address of the firewall on the other side. And then you need to add the remote network. In our case, is Site 2, right? So remember, I created the network object. So once you do that, it's easier when you configure here. If not, you have to manually create it here as well. Next, click on next. Right, so on the privacy configuration, we are going to use IKE version 2. We use AES GCM and AES SHA. Right, we will use either of the policies and the IPsec proposal. We're going to use select both set of encryption standard as well. Remember to key in your pre-shared key and remember them. If not, you will have issue establishing the tunnel. Right, so this is like your password. You can do pre-shared key or certificate. For this tutorial, we're going to use pre-shared key. We can leave the lifetime duration and lifetime size as it is as default. We'll not be using PFS, right? Perfect forward secrecy. Now, remember on the net exam side of things, you can actually turn on net exam over here. So for site 1, I'm going to show you that we'll turn on the net exam on the inside interface. But you can actually not set this up here and then configure the rule manually, which I will show you as well. So once that's done, let's click on next. You will basically see a summary of all the configuration. Right, just review the IP addresses, right, to make sure that you have configured the right ones. The policies for IKE and IPsec proposal is the same, right? We're using pre-shared key manual. We have turned on the exam rule for inside, right? We've not activated the defilement or the PFS group. So once that's done, just click finish. Okay, and then you can go ahead and deploy the policy. Okay, and then next we're going to do is go to policy. Right, we're going to configure the net rule. So click on add button over here. Okay, so we're going to do net site-to-site exam. You want to put this rule right at the top, right? As the rule are top down. So this putting this right on top means that any of the inside traffic traversing the site-to-site VPN will not be netted, right? So it's always good to put this right in front of our auto net rule, and in this case, I would like to always like to put it at the top of the rule so that when the firewall evaluates the rules and the policies, they will know that not to do any net for site-to-site traffic. Okay, source interface is inside. Okay, so this is your local IP address, which is site 1, and then destination if it's going to site 2, which is the remote network address. You want to translate it, right, when it's going through the outside interface to keep the IP address as it is, right, without any translation. So inside site 1 going to site 2, when it gets out of the outside interface, it will retain its site 1 and site 2 IP addresses. Okay, so once that's done, you just click OK. So that is very much the net rule. And then next we can go to access control and add the allow site-to-site rule, right? So we want to, so by default, okay, so we're going to allow outside, right, which is where VPN traffic is coming in. The outside traffic is the remote site, which is site 2, right, and then coming into site 1 inside zone, and then going to the inside IP address. Okay, so if you are new to all this syntax, it might take a while to figure out, but following this tutorial should give you the hang of configuring the access control policy. So if you notice, we have only configured the outside in rules because we already have the inside out rule, right? So by default, all inside traffic is allowed to go outside. We just now need to allow outside the remote LAN IP address to come into the inside zone and going to the inside IP address, right? So you do not want to put any because then you open up your firewall to all the traffic, right? Exposing your setup. Okay, once that's done, just click deploy now. So that is how fast and easy it is to configure site-to-site in the new FTD using FDM. In the future, I will show you how to do it in the Cloud FMC, which is a lot easier because you are managing all the firewalls in a single centralized management versus now that I have to, constantly hop between two browsers. Okay, now let's hop over to the site 2. right? So I've logged in as well. So I've already created an object, so we can just hop over to the view configuration, click on create site-to-site connection, and this is active to site-to-site demo. Likewise, right? The local VPN interface is the same, it's the outside interface, and then the network, the local network for site 2 is of course site 2, right? And then policy base type, right? That's the default. And then static IP address and the remote IP address 173.212.222.74. Okay, and then the remote IP address is in site 1. Okay, let's click next. Same thing, let's make sure that the policy is the same, and then the IPsec we will select both as usual. And then remember, make sure the pre-check key is correct. Make sure you have the rest of the setup is the same, lifetime is the same, and we'll not do any PFS. For this site, I'm going to not turn on NetExam, right? And use the manual rules, right? And you will see that once we configure the NetExam rule, the network will be connected. So once that's done, review your setup as usual. Click on finish, and then deploy it now, right? If you notice, there's a summary of the policies, right? Outside site 2 for your local network, remote network going to site 1, and you can see that NetExam is not configured here. Okay, so let's take a look at the client, right? So I have accessed both the client. Okay, so if we go into the client right now, this is the IP config. This is the site 1 IP, right? 10.16.2.111. Okay, if we ping 172.16.2.111, we should not be able to ping it right now because we have not established a tunnel and we have not configured access control rule. Now, if we hop over to the client on the other side, right, same thing. Right, so this is the 172 client, and then we will ping and you can see that the connection is not up. Okay, so the client is not connected yet, which is normal. Now let's go back and take a look at the policy, right? So policy has been deployed on site. So now we need to configure the site 2 net rule, right? So let's come over here, click on add net site to site exam. Same thing, we want to put it right on top, and then inside interface site 2 going to site 1. Going to outside site 2 going to site 1, so it's direct mapping, no translation of IP. Okay, so that and the deploy. If we take a look at the client, still not up and running, which is should be normal. Let's just let the deployment finish. Okay, the deployment is completed on the site 2. Let's just make sure that there's no more policies to deploy. Okay, let's just relook at our client. Right, the 172 client is not So both clients are still not able to ping each other, which is normal. What I'll do is on site 2, we haven't added the access control. So let's add a new access control policy for site 2, allow site to site. So this is site 2, the outside interface IP address is from site 1, right? Site 1 coming in to our inside zone and site 2. Okay, so let's deploy this. Let's deploy the policy. Okay, let's wait for the policy to complete its deployment. Okay, we can see that the deployment has completed successfully. Okay, now that the policies has been deployed, let's hop over to the client, and you can see that right now I can ping 10.16.2.11 from my 172.16.2 client. Now if I were to initiate a RDP session, you will see that it will prompt me for a username and password. And I should be able to connect to session there. Let's just minimize this. You can see that. Likewise, right? Let's just make this a little bit bigger. Config. We should see that we are, oops, a little bit too big. Okay, let's see. Yeah, we can see that this is the 10.6.2.111 client. Okay, so that's pretty much how quick and easy it is to do the configuration. Let's hop over to the configuration and just make sure that we have done all the configuration checks again. So you can see, right, we have configured the access control from site 2 to site 1. That's what we have allowed in. Right, if we hop over to the net rule, we can see that we have a net for inside site 1 to site 2 going to outside, right, site 1 to site 2. So that's the configuration on the site 1. Then we hop over to the device and then go to configuration. You can see that we have the configuration interface outside site 1 to site 2, and then over here we have the NetExam enable. Okay, now if we go over to the other site, our site 2, you can see that the access control policy, we have a access control from site 1 to site 2 allowed on the access control side. Go over to net rule, we can see that there is a net from inside site 2 to site 1 going to outside site 2 to site 1. Right, and the main difference here is that on the configuration side, you can see that we have outside, we have site 2 going to site 1, but we do not have any interface that is NetExam in the connection profile itself. Okay, so effectively, we don't really need the access control rules on the site 1, right? Because effectively we have actually manually configured the net rule over here, right? So we don't really have to have that rule. But as a tutorial, it's just to show you that you can do the net exam either way. And if I were to go back here to the policy and remove, let's just make sure I rekey in this so that it's correct. Right, so if I remove the net exam here, finish, and I do a deploy now, let's wait for the deployment to complete. Now if I go back here, probably take a while, right? Complete the rule deployment. Let's just check. Okay, it should work. Not too sure. Net rule is in place. Access control is in place. Yep, it is in place. Might take a while for the policy to renegotiate. Make sure that I'm keying the appreciate key correctly. That's all I did. No XM rule. Finish and deploy again. It's still not up. Okay, so let's go to the other side and let's just make sure that everything is correct. Let's just make sure that my pre-shared key is correct. Right, a lot of time is the typo at the pre-shared key that can cause a problem. Right, let's just finish it and deploy again. Redeploy the policy just in case of the pre-shared key again. Okay, this is deploying, but let's hop over. And you can see it is back up and running. Let's make sure that we should be working. Let's check the rules whether it has been deployed. Okay, it's been deployed, so should be correct. Okay, now it's reconnected back. There's a bit of downtime when they re-establish the tunnel. Of course, since we can connect, there's no reason why we can't ping each other. Connection is a little bit lagging. Launch this. Okay. Let's see whether is it because of my log out here, so shouldn't be an issue. Wrong with the command prompt. 2.16.2.111. Windows problem might be the configuration that I did just now. Okay, now this is better. You can see that we can ping each other, right? So the tunnel is up, right? There's a little bit of if you face problem with the VPN tunnel not coming up, just make sure you double check your pre-check key, right? Most of the time I realize that when there's a problem with the connection, is usually the pre-check key, right? That you need to especially when you're resetting our policy, you need to rekey in that pre-check key, right? To get it up and running. Okay, so that's all for the configuration. Now let's take a quick look at some of the basic commands that you can launch from the CLI console in the browser. So you can actually do a show IPsec. Let's do ISA KMP SA. Right, it will tell you that you have your IKE SA, right, is up, right, and it's active, right. There is a one IKE count, right, child count 3, right. As you can see, the SA local selectors is the IP address, right. You will notice that there is my failover links are in place as well. Right, but more importantly, on the IKE v2 SA below here, right, you will see that there is a session that is established to the remote IP address, and then we're using 4500, which is the net transversal, the local selector, which is the local traffic, and the remote selector, which is the remote traffic, right? So you should see this up and running, right? When you see this, it means that the tunnel has been established. Now, if there are communication error between the two clients, you might want to check out the net rules and the access control rule, right? So that's on the site 2. Now, if we head over to site 1 and do the same, show ISA KMP. SA first, you should see a similar set of things, right? We don't see the first 3 because that was a failover, but you can see that the remote public IP address is tunneled with the local outside interface, which is 10.16.1.2. if you look at my setup diagram, as this is my second tier, and port 4500 is for net transversal. We're using net transversal to establish a tunnel through a 2-tier firewall. Likewise, you will see the local traffic and or network and the remote network. Okay, There are a few other things you can do to check. You can do a show. You can do a show IS IPsec, right? SA as well. To tell you what is the IPsec tunnel state. Oops. They will show you that the SA state is active, as you can see here, right? For inbound and outbound SA, so you can see that the tunnel is active both from the inbound and outbound perspective. You can look at the here, right? You can also validate the IP address of the peer, and then you can see the access control list. We have permit the IP address, right, from 10.16.2 to 17.2. So those are some of the quick commands that you can use to quickly validate and check your tunnel's traffic statistics, right, through the IPsec tunnel. Okay, so that's pretty much what I have for today's tutorial. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for the next tutorial. Stay safe and take care.